I'm a 34-year-old mother of three who experienced a 20-minute near-death and out-of-body experience in 2019. I had a tubal ligation after giving birth to a beautiful baby girl, which resulted in difficulties and 52-day hospital stay. My perforated bowel presented me with numerous mental and physical difficulties. Telling my own narrative in a therapeutic approach for me to connect, motivate, and provide hope to those who are going through similar experiences. My experience is not meant to be kept to myself. It's meant to be shared with the rest of the world. At the age of 16, 32, and 33, I have successfully delivered 3 children without difficulties. My health never deteriorated, and I was always active, leaping off of aircraft, climbing mountains, traveling, and simply living my best life with princesses. I intended to return to my dream work at the Arkansas Heart Hospital and continue my education at the University of Arkansas for medical science to acquire my Bachelor of Science in Health Information Technology. However, this time around, after having baby, my life was irrevocably transformed. My infant was sent home for up to 6 months with her family. My 16-year-old daughter was left to care for her younger 1-year-old sibling, and my family remained at my bedside every day while I fought for every breath of my life. Consider the game of hopscotch with me. It is a classic game designed to be enjoyable, and it brings back fond memories of jumping from one number square to the next. Hopscotch is now your reality at the snap of a finger. Hopscotch was a life-changing experience for me. Each square represented a single problem, then double problems, then another double problems, and so on. I was psychologically and physically fatigued the entire time. However, I heard my mother plead imploring for me to survive, heard my father's heart cry, and saw the despair in my sister's eyes. I was not the type to give up lightly in the first place. As a result, I had to go through test after test and surgery after operations. My face was put to the ultimate test, but I persisted, and today I can see God's plan for my life in the distance. My surgical scars are not the most attractive. In fact, they are rather unsightly. They do, however, remind me every second how close I became to being gone for good, and I'm grateful for that. My scars have led me down a new path, which I am now able to share with the rest of the world. I thank God for sending me a team of angels. My family, the surgical team, the hospitalists, the cardiologists, the heart transplant team, the pulmonary team, the infectious disease team, the chaplain, the GI team, the nephrologist, my home health nurse, my counselor, and my psychiatrist. The tubal ligation procedure was completed on July 20, 2019. The agony was excruciating and uncontrollable right after the tubal ligation. I became hypotensive and mildly hypoxic as well as tachycardic. 2 days after surgery on July 22, 2019, a CT scan revealed severe atelectasis, a complete or partial collapsed lung. An abdominal X-ray on July 23, 2019 revealed a huge volume of feces in my right colon, as well as colonic ileus, which is an intestinal obstruction, and an interperitoneal free air, indicating perforation. The installation of NG tube in my nostrils for feeding and gastric decomposition was incredibly painful and uncomfortable, and I denied the implantation of another NG tube down the line. With indicators of life-threatening diseases and infections, I made it to July 26, 2019, 6 days following my surgery. My family was concerned since the room temperature was quite frigid and I kept moaning that I was hot. I sat very next to the air vent and did not get any cooler. I was smoldering on the inside. Inside of me, a match was lit, and the heat spread like a wildfire, stifling my bones and organs. Except for my sister, everyone was perplexed. Her medical skills, she advised the doctors to investigate indicators of infection. I honestly did not think I would live to see the sunrise. I was on the edge of passing out. My mother was my advocate. My signs and symptoms would be followed up on in the morning, but my mother was adamant about getting me help that night. The doctors performed a contrast CT scan of the abdomen and pelvis, which revealed increased fluid air indicating perforation. Generally, surgery was consulted and I was immediately taken into emergency exploratory surgery. Once my abdomen was opened for exploratory surgery, the physicians detected a return of free air and a big amount of succus, or liquid, about 3.5 liters. She saw that my bowels were in a bad state and had a lot of exudate, or fluid. She noticed a 0.5 centimeter bowels damage during the tubal ligation on July 20, 2019, as she dug deeper into my abdomen. She also discovered a number of interloop abscesses. The surgeon was able to drain the abscesses and thoroughly flush my intestine, looking for any more punctures. Due to the increased risk of infection, a wound VAC was placed in the incision along with two drains. The left drain was put behind my enlarged uterus in my pelvis, while the right drain was implanted within my small bowel. For treatment, I was taken to PACU. I had 3 life-threatening illnesses according to my cultures: Klebsiella pneumoniae, Streptococcus aeruginosus, and Enterococcus hyrae. Unfortunately, these infections had gone untreated for days and had reached my bloodstream, causing organ damage. I got septic, and the odors and tastes emanating from my bowel were poisonous. Still in ICU on my 31st birthday, August 16, 2019. With an EF of 10 to 15% blood rushing to my heart, I was diagnosed with acute hypoxic respiratory failure, acute renal failure, and congestive heart failure. In addition, I suffered anemia and experienced a fright attack to epistaxis, a nosebleed. According to the nurse, I bled a lot and needed 2 blood transfusions on August 29th and September 3rd, 2019. My health deteriorated further. In both of my lungs, chest x-rays revealed bilateral pulmonary infiltrates versus edema, essentially pneumonia. I had a feeling that pneumonia was going to kill me. I was on my antibiotics and BIPAP for better oxygenation. Gradually gained the strength to walk with assistance, and I was regularly shifted by nurses every hour or so to help reverse the pneumonia and relieve the pressure on my bed sores and back agony. My pneumonia in both legs vanished 3 days later. I appeared to be over-medicated according to one doctor. He was undoubtedly correct. I was given whatever to relieve my agony and suffering, including morphine, oxycodone, or Percocet, to mention a few. These pills saved my life, especially when it came to time to change the wound VAC on my abdomen and the dressing. I'll never forget the smell of my flesh or the sight of being able to peer inside my abdomen. The event that forever impacted my life, the day before discharge, August 28, 2019, was a routine day. My sister came to see me on her way home from work and paid me a nice visit. My sister is a prospective LPN hospice aide, and my mother is a dedicated housekeeper, so I had the best of both worlds in terms of care and support. My sister and I had a good day, laughing, watching TV, singing praise and worship music. I was giddy with anticipation of returning home the next day. "See you later, I love you sis," she wrote, "and I'll pick you up in the morning." I was back to being restless and glancing at the clothes as soon as I missed her companionship. Surprisingly, the longer I glanced at the clock, the faster time passed. Then, unexpectedly, a team of physicians and nurses came into my room as if it were an emergency. The cardiac monitoring team had urged them to get me to me as soon as possible. I was awake when they entered my room, and the doctor inquired about my condition. My heart stopped beating, and I went to a VT cardiac arrest before I could reply. My spirit left my body in an instant, and I could feel myself free of weight of my corporal body. I was able to hear the code blue call for help and observe the surgeries that were taking place to save my life. I had no pain perception. Thus, the CPR that fractured my ribs and the 5 electrical shocks to my heart were unnoticed. It was as if I was sleeping peacefully, just like Sleeping Beauty. My mind became aware of the fact that my body was there in the hospital bed, but I was present in the understanding that I was in a different place than my physical body. My consciousness became aware of something, and I exclaimed to myself, "Oh no, I just died. I did not mean to die." A sense of serenity washed over me like a soft and loving blanket. I was reassured that everything would be fine. I felt eternal, drifting towards a warm, inviting being of light in a dark tunnel, like if I had suddenly obtained some abilities. As if I were a feather drifting up effortlessly toward the light. I felt pure and light. I could not take my gaze away from the brightness. I was completely absorbed in it. The black tunnel transformed me into rays of vivid light, a kaleidoscope of futuristic hues, and the area around the beyond me seemed to go on forever. Then I was charmed by the most wonderfully constructed instruments of music and pleasant noises. The deeper my relaxation felt, the closer I was being called by the light. I felt unique, connected, welcomed, at home, cherished, and on par with others. I felt forgiven and smiled upon. I was not scared, stressed, hungry, thirsty, or in pain. I had no sense of time because I was on my way to meet God and I was at ease. For a little while, I was able to see and hear the outpouring of prayers. It seemed as though the prayers were a physical object that I was passing by. It's also like receiving gifts and exclaiming, "Oh, all of this for me?" So I'm confident that God hears my prayers. I'm not sure who was praying at the time. I just had a feeling that each prayer belonged to me. The prayer were magnificent. When it comes to someone praying for you, I believe that the more, the merrier. Before the face of God, someone close to me was appealing on my behalf. I believe it was my grandfather's spirit, whom I cherished and sorely missed. Finally, I entered a garden, and one flower in particular piqued my interest. It was a burgundy to reddish lily blossom, stood out the amid valley other flowers. The flower's theme was translucent, and the flow of life and energy could be seen. This was my first taste of nirvana. This was a greater level of experience that my mind could comprehend. So what happened after that is a haze. I'm not sure if I had a choice whether to stay or go. I suppose that part of me wanted to stay, but the other part of me wanted to get back to my babies and family. I could not turn around by myself. When I was brought back into my actual body, it seemed like time travel backwards, if that makes sense. It was almost enjoyable to be sucked into a vortex. My spirit is now disconnected from my physical body, and I sometimes feel uncomfortable to this body. I believe Shawnee's died on the day of her cardiac arrest. My sister claims she received the stress call to return to the hospital during all of this turmoil while being revived. She was on her way home, unsure of what to anticipate, but whatever was going on seemed horrible, so she rushed back to the hospital. What was going on? My sister came into the room and asked the doctor. They assumed my sister was an employee arriving to assist the code blue because of her uniform. What do you mean? What's going on? She coded. Shouted the doctor. My sister said she then realized my lifeless eyes had come out of their sockets. She also spotted the apparatus in everyone around my lifeless body, and she passed out from shock. While they worked diligently for 20 minutes to revive me, the doctor recognized my sister, lifted her to her feet, and rushed her out of the room. My parents were informed, and everyone stayed in a nearby private room until I was stable. I had no idea I was in a medically induced coma to relieve pressure on my brain and heart. I was intubated for 5 days before being weaned off the ventilator. My recovery was sluggish, but miraculously, I did not turn into a vegetable. They were not sure how much harm had been done to my brain because I had been without oxygen for a while. I did not recall waking up, but I was informed I was in shock because I had died and that my heart had stopped beating for 20 minutes. Regrettably, several time frames remain ambiguous. I was told that I was given medication to erase the trauma's memory. God gave me the ability to save some memories of my near-death experience, to treasure them in my heart, and to share them with the rest of the world. On September 11, 2019, I was finally released to return home safely with an EF of 25 to 30% blood pumping through my heart. I was taking over 20 medicines a day, wore a life jacket, hit an IV milveronone in my arm for cardiac support, a PICC line in my chest, and the wound vac was still in place. From September 14 to 17, 2019, I was readmitted to separate hospitals with worries of CVA or stroke for acutely developing aphasia, which are basically stroke-like symptoms. I underwent an MRI that revealed brain volume reduction as well as a swallowing test, and I was only able to eat pure meals at the time. I tested positive for E. coli after I was released from the hospital. On December 4, 2019, I had to have an ICD, also known as a defibrillator, implanted. I visited the operating room 6 times in 2019. Tubal ligation, exploratory laparotomy to repair small bowel injury, drainage of intra-abdominal abscess and drainage placement 2 times, wound vac placement to incision, abscessogram 4 times, EGD, PICC line placement, several drain placements in my pelvis, and ICD. I did not remember anything about my out-of-body and near-death experience until a year later. I had no idea what the term near-death experience meant. Fast forward to now, and I have been diagnosed with PTSD, which has brought back to those recurrent memories and sensations. Hospitals, needles, and operating rooms terrify me. While aware, I survived stroke-like symptoms such as drooling and tremors in my upper and lower extremities caused by subsequent brain damage. Slurred speech, swallowing difficulties, and walking difficulties were all overcome. My bowels began to respond to medications and gradually resumed normal function. However, I experienced memory loss, independence loss, depression, loss of pleasure, powerlessness, anxiety, dread of falling asleep, and hair loss as a result of the medications. There are good days and bad days for me. As a result of all this, I graduated from cardiac rehab 2020 at the Heart Hospital where I previously worked, and I changed my daily diet. I felt accomplished as a result of this. A heart transplant specialist is monitoring my recovery. The spirit is simply passing through, and life is merely a series of moments. Your spirit is not supposed to be here, it is supposed to be with God. That is something that I'm getting more of now than before. So I have quit clinging to things that are only temporary. Everything has its time. My near death and out of body experience motivate me most days. Once you come to know or encounter your inner spirit outside of your physical body, it's quite difficult to adjust. I've been trying to process it for the past 2 years. Even though I take a lot of pills on a daily basis, CHF does not define me. I want to spend every moment with my kids and be an inspiration to others. The key to eternity is love.